everybody. Hand sanitizer accident, but that's why we wear aprons. Actually, it's not for hand sanitizer. That's just a nice catch. But I've only been putting hand sanitizer on, well, for a long time, but routinely in the last year. And apparently I still can't do a good job of it. Good with plants. Yay, technology, hand sanitizer. Ooh. But we'll get there. Happy Monday, everybody. If you're from Calgary, Southern Alberta, that was a roller coaster weekend, eh? Saturday, 21 degrees, sunny, everybody in shorts. Parks filled with people. Yesterday, -2, 4 inches of snow. Okay, welcome to spring. Welcome to spring. So, but you know what? We needed the moisture. Doesn't hurt for things to slow down a bit. It was funny. I was out in my garden on Saturday until about 8:30, 8 o'clock, just getting it cleaned up. I hadn't had a chance to get into the backyard. Knew I wouldn't on Sunday. I had a bunch of other things to do. So, hey, at this time of year, we garden when we can. At least I don't have to worry about that part of it. Left some piles of debris for the bees, cleaned up other things, got rid of the garbage. Did a good raking, but we didn't rip it, so we didn't damage any of that young lawn. And it's just nice and clean. A good starting point for when we know that we're real into it, middle of May, and then I can really get going. But it gives me some breathing room. So, we've talked about welcoming back spring. We've talked about annuals. Now I want to discuss perennials. Oh, for anybody who was at our seminar, really sorry you guys got cut off again. Technical issues, plants, very good. Technical, not so good. We know what the problem was. We fixed it. It won't happen again. I'd already answered the last question. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye and thank you to everybody who came. So that was a bit of a drag. So again, it wasn't you guys. It was us. It's not you. It's me. Yeah, sign up for the webinar this week. Don't forget, keep an eye out on social media. We haven't done the post on giving away that veggie pod, but we absolutely will be doing it. Did we give away the book?
We are giving that away tomorrow.
Tomorrow, giving away the book. Super excited. Never given away a book. I personally love them. So anyway, without further ado, perennials. Perennial, huh? Maybe I should have added an S to that. I was in a hurry. There we go. Fixed. Nothing to see here. So what is a perennial? We discussed what an annual is, something that goes through its life cycle, seed, all the way around back to seed in one season. A perennial is a longer lasting, normally cold hardy to a certain degree, herbaceous or fleshy plant. So technically, trees and shrubs are perennials, but they have a wooden stem, and they're much longer lived for the most part. So while they are technically a perennial, they have their own classification of trees and shrubs. When we discuss perennial as gardeners, we're discussing ones like this bleeding heart. Gotta love them. If you guys didn't know, I had to grab this one. Bleeding heart also comes with white blooms. So yeah, really exciting. And you can see the name. It's a little heart with a little drop coming off it. Amazing plants. Early spring bloomers. But as you can see, sorry, I brought this out and got excited on the flower. As you can see, it's very fleshy, and it's going to maintain this all the way through its lifespan. So it doesn't matter how mature it gets. It's never going to develop those wooden branches like a shrub or a tree. Now, some perennials at the base can get somewhat woody. They can get a thicker stem, almost calloused, if you will. And they're still very much a fleshy or herbaceous perennial. So in a nutshell, that's what they are. And we are going to discuss trees and shrubs later. So don't think we're just glossing over those. We'll definitely touch on those. We'll recap everything else. And one of the things about perennials is that they really are a backbone of any garden. They you plant them once with a bit of care, the correct fertilizers, and there's any different choice of fertilizers for them. They're going to do really well. And what you want to make sure with your perennials as well, unlike your annuals, where really all you're focused on with annuals, two things. And it's kind of the same thing. You're focused on getting your fruit or your veggies from them or your flowers. Those are what you're looking at. You don't really care how the roots are developing as long as you're getting that above ground showcase. And the reason for that is that it's dead no matter what. Come October, September, sometimes once that frost hits, the New Guinea impatiens, they're over and done with. So you're not really too worried. You want to really focus on a flowering or a fruiting fertilizer. Perennials, you want them, they're going to last a long time, so you really want them to have an overall health. So an all-purpose fertilizer is custom made for perennials. It's going to do your root development, it's going to do your leaf development, it's going to do all your micronutrients. It's going to ensure that they will develop seed if you want them to. If not, you deadhead them, that energy goes back in. Another thing about the all-purpose, and we'll touch base on fertilizers later on as well. Another thing, it's going to make sure that everything works well together, that the uptake is happening when it needs, it's getting the right nitrogen when it needs it, it's getting the right phosphates when it needs it, and everything kind of happens along as it goes. And with that, you also want to make sure your perennial beds, or wherever they are, you can have isolated perennials. I know some people have a corner, and it can be a little bit of a tricky corner. So they put something in where maybe they stuff it with something like Lily of the Valley, or another really popular one that I love is woodruff. And these are amazing for shady, damper areas. They can be a little bit invasive, so sometimes they're great to not put in a bed with other perennials. So whether you've got a full perennial bed or just an isolated little area, you also really want to make sure that your soil is amended. Like I've said, and again, especially with perennials, if you have a veggie plot and it's empty, go ahead, turn it. Again, I don't recommend going deeper than this with your nutrients, but you're not going to do damage by spading it into, a foot deep. You might be wasting time, energy, product, but you're not going to damage. You have these perennials and they can have extensive root systems. You start digging in too hard, you're going to damage that root system, which, we just touched on is a no-go. They really need those roots for the longevity. So with your perennials, when you're working in your amendments, your composts, your coirs, peat mosses, rock dusts, whatever, biochar, the list goes on and on, worm castings. Okay, stop listing things, Colin, stay on track here. You really want to make sure that you're just working it into the soil. And if you hit roots, back off, don't pull through. And the perennials will thank you for that. And another important thing with perennials as well is what they bring to the pollinators. So annuals are great, but a lot of times the annuals will get hit by the pollinators and there's nothing left. These guys are putting out, if you have a wide, diverse range of them, will constantly put out blooms throughout the season. So you've got your early spring bloomers. Neither of these guys are blooming right now, but both of these are great early spring bloomers. Bleeding Heart, the one that we showed. And this also comes in a pink one. A lot of people have seen the pink one. I didn't know if anybody had seen the white one, so I grabbed this. Exact same plant, picture a pink flower, not a white flower. These are early spring blooming ones. And just because you see it in bloom here, doesn't necessarily mean that that's when it's going to bloom in your garden. Nothing is really happening in my garden. Few shoots happening here and there, but I have daylilies in my garden. None of them have a flower on it, where this one does. And that's another thing I'm going to touch on really quick. Even though perennials are hardier, and like I said at the beginning, a lot of times they are more cold tolerant. You still want to acclimatize them. You came in on Saturday, bought some perennials, went home, planted them, and they got hit with that cold. It's not going to do them good. They might be okay. You might not see them again. So again, it is still too early to put things outside. Get them climatized, bring them indoors, harden them off. Today it's 5 degrees, sunny. Maybe you want to put them outside during the real warmest part of the day for an hour or two, but then get them back in. If you don't want to risk it, don't. Depends where you're at. So you can get them, you can plan for them, but certainly watch out for them. So those are your spring bloomers, but you've also got your summer ones, and that's your bee balm, echinacea, rudbeckia, those ones. This is a bee balm. I love it. It's got a square stem. It's part of the mint family, and the bees go nuts for these. The clue is literally in the name, bee balm. I love Monara, they're edible. You can put them on salads too. So it's a total win-win. And then you've got your late fall bloomers, which again are essential to the pollinators. And we've got sedums and asters and things like that. And they go great with, if you want to put in some fall mums, which are an annual. And that's an essential food source for those long, fall days where it's warm enough for the pollinators to be out, but there's not much happening naturally. So, that's kind of why it's important to do it. And the other joy of perennials as well, and the reason I grabbed such a mixed bag, I'll move my chalks here, is when you put them together, you can see the diversity we have in blooms here. We've got reddish pinks, we've got purples, we've got blues, we've got whites, there's yellows, there's golds, there's silvers, but then also all of the foliages. We've got burgundy foliage. Like, that's a great flower, but look at that foliage with it. You put these together, just the difference in the leaf. Like I said, these guys, I've got so many to pick from. These guys go great together. You couldn't ask for a more different type of leaf or shape of plant. The columbine or the aquilegia, incredible, incredible flower, and a great leaf on it too. That's my drawing of it. That's pretty impressive. I told you, I found my medium.
Yeah, you did.
I found my medium. Chalk is my medium. And then, of course, we've got the hosta, beautifully variegated, large leaves, really cool leaves. When the rain hits, you can see there's a channel. So it channels all the water to itself, doesn't allow any to get in there. So it actually inhibits weed growth and takes all the water for itself. So a really interesting evolutionary design with hostas. So there is so much happening with perennials, and constructed correctly and built knowing what you're doing, tall perennials to the back, ground covers in the front, shade lovers, there's any number of choices in a shadier area, your sun lovers throughout, standalone ones, bleeding hearts can get huge, low ground covers amongst a pathway like this, one of the names of this, that's not going to come out, so I'll just show it to you. Sweet woodruff is odorata, okay? And one of the reasons for that is the amount of fragrance it gives off. It's incredible. So there is so much diversity happening. You put these 3-4 plants together here, and look at the different colors and structures and heights you've immediately got, and only one of them is in bloom. It's remarkable. We've got burgundies, we've got blues and aquas, we've got deep greens with purples and yellows, and then a deep green bladed plant covered in flower buds. So diversity is incredible with these guys. And it's one of the reasons I love perennials. So for the rest of this week, we're going to keep discussing perennials. We're going to go into some subject matter. We're going to talk about dividing them, what you can do to keep them healthy, deadheading, etc., etc. All perennials this week. Probably my favorite type of plant is the perennial, for all the reasons I just listed. So happy Monday, everybody. I hope you have a great one. It's hectic here, as always. Stay safe, nothing but love, and we'll talk to you guys soon, okay? Bye, everyone.